when all of this stuff, kind of suddenly like really kind of looms up. Okay, great. Now you've graduated from college. Like,
Yeah.
oh, are you going to go to grad school? Are you going to get married? Are you going to have kids? You're like, all these things are like
Yeah.
coming at you. And I think it's very easy to get overwhelmed. And it's also very easy to get sucked in to the sort of societal tractor beam of
Yeah.
what you're supposed to be doing. And that's like kind of like, timeout number one right there. Like
Yeah.
anytime you're worried about what you're supposed to be doing or should be doing, like those are real, for me, those are like massive red flag words.
Three things you will learn from this episode. Number one, why balance is a myth and how to reframe success without guilt or burnout. Number two, the satisfaction journal strategy that turns daily chaos into micro wins. And number three, how to rewrite your ambition narrative to make space for joy now, not someday. Welcome to this episode of the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. I feature Olympians, CEOs, disruptors, authors, professional athletes, and the best of the best, where they share their stories of resilience with my lens on leadership and culture. Let's get started. What do you get when you combine a Harvard-trained physician, a CEO, a strategy executive, a mother, a wife, a no-nonsense truth teller who calls BS on work-life balance? You get Dr. Denise Brown, also known as the Fairy God Doctor. She spent 3 decades at the intersection of medicine, business, and burnout, and now she's writing prescriptions for working women who are ready to stop chasing success and start choosing satisfaction. Denise, welcome to the show.
Oh, I'm so glad to be
I love the
here.
wand. So good. So good. I'm so happy to have you here. So I start the show the same every single time. And so the first question I always ask is, would you please share your story?
Oh my goodness. Well, it's a long story, so I'll share the shortest version.
Okay.
Yes, I am a doctor. I actually went to Stanford, not Harvard, but that's okay.
So
Thanks for that
sorry.
little bump. I really appreciate it.
I mean, Stanford's no
Um,
slouch either, so I gotta
well,
fix that.
we do what we can. Thought I would just live my life in doctor land, and then the universe had other plans. So I did clinical medicine for about 15 years, then started getting into kind of strategy and business development. Turned out I was really good at asking people for money. Who knew? It's also quite fun. So ended up as the chief strategy officer of a very large multi-state physician practice. And then was the CEO of a telehealth company, sold that in the fall of 23. And then I decided I wanted to take a year off because I never had. So at the ripe age of, 52 years old, I took my very first break. And it lasted about 3 months before I was bored. And so then I decided to write this book, which is really kind of just this kind of amalgamation of all the stuff I learned along the way about creating the kind of work environment that you want to have in order for all of the other things to occur. And they all have to occur simultaneously. We cannot separate this stuff. And so it was kind of a labor of love, passion project, if you will. I've had so much fun. I have all these fairy god children scattered all around the world, and I call them children. They're sort of anyone under age 30
Yeah.
is I would consider my child. And so I decided that I would write this sort of prescriptions for them so that they could maybe jump ahead in their kind of like, let's just do it our way kind of journey versus kind of waiting for things to happen to
I
them.
love
So,
it. I
yeah.
love it. So, one of the topics you talk a lot about is balance. And given your background, with all the incredible stuff you've done, my guess is your balance wasn't so great.
There is no balance, so that's convenient. And I think I figured that out really quickly. There are seasons, I think we can
Yes.
all agree, but there isn't any balance. And I think when we put that out there like it's something we're supposed to find or
Yeah,
achieve or whatever, we are setting ourselves up not necessarily for failure, but for disappointment slash dissatisfaction. And really, my jam is like there's enough of that being thrown at us. We don't need to do it to ourselves. So the idea that we're going to find this mythical land of work-life balance is total bullshit as far as I'm
I
concerned.
agree.
And if you set that aside you end up with a lot more energy to do other things.
Well, it
So
takes a lot of the pressure off, right? So if
totally.
that, I mean, that moniker work-life balance, it's been
Yeah.
thrown around for decades. And, we've heard as women, you can't have it all. And the woman that can, that woman that looks like she has it all, she definitely doesn't. Like there's something suffering always. So I love that you kind of throw that out the window and say,
Yeah.
stop working so hard for it because there's no point to work so
And
hard
and you
for
can
it.
never get there.
Yeah.
And I would argue that you actually can have it all.
Mm,
You just can't do it all.
mm.
And
Explain.
you got to really sink into what all means to you personally, not the like, oh, I want a picket fence and the this and the that and a nice car and 3 weeks and what that's not it. It's like the deep down stuff. So that's hard work, and it takes time and it takes attention and like a willingness to kind of sit in the muck a little bit in your own mind.
Yeah.
Um, but you can have it all. You just can't do it.
Well, and I love that you have to kind of be introspective. Like we always hear people saying, just like you said, I want the picket fence, I want the marriage, I want the this, I want that. But why? Do you
Right.
want it because society has told you that's good? Does that make you happy? Because that I think is becoming more normalized, having that dialogue, having that conversation. So where do you start with people on that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think this is the kind of the challenge of the late 20s, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but like I would not go back and be 27 again for love nor money. I mean, no. 25, even worse, because it's when all of this stuff, kind of suddenly like really kind of looms up. Okay, great. Now you've graduated from college. Like,
Yeah.
oh, are you going to go to grad school? Are you going to get married? You're going to have kids. You're like, all these things are like
Yeah.
coming at you. And I think it's very easy to get overwhelmed. And it's also very easy to get sucked in to the sort of societal tractor beam of
Yeah.
what you're supposed to be doing. And that's like kind of like, timeout number one right there. Like
Yeah.
anytime you're worried about what you're supposed to be doing or should be doing, like those are real, though, for me, those are like massive red flag words
Mm.
when you have those going on in your own kind of self dialogue. It's like, whoa, hold the phone.
Yeah.
So that's actually kind of why I wrote the book, because I was just like, hey, we've all been there. I sort of had a jump ahead, if you will, because sadly my mom died when I was just about to be 25, and
Mm.
so I kind of jumped ahead to my zero fucks era very quickly because I mean, I was like, well, shit, like if you can die at age 53, having done
Yeah.
all the right things, checked all the boxes, all the shoulds, maybe we need to, maybe we need to think about doing this
I,
different way.
I love that you said that because I really feel like people that have had near-death experiences or have experienced significant loss um, get that better than others. They get it quicker than others,
Yeah.
and they understand how to zero in on that what satisfies me thing, which takes us to my next question, which is what is the satisfaction journal
Mhm.
strategy?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we get, again, really kind of like overwhelmed by these external validation points that are considered, quote, success. So it's the graduation or the buying the house or getting a car or like all these little things that are, the
The
promotion.
milestones.
Check,
Yeah.
check, 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 check.
Mhm.
Very external. Yeah, they're the miles, and you're like, oh, look at me. Aren't I amazing?
I did it. Yeah.
Um, none of none of that shit keeps you warm at night, right? None of that stuff is when you wake up and say, "Oh, what a glorious morning," like, I can't wait. I mean, sure, I want to get in my new car, but like those are not the things that
Yeah.
you can't take it with you, but like what actually can you take with? And I think when you start to decide to like spend a little more time paying attention to this stuff, you realize that the things that actually like warm your heart are the like funny interaction that you had at the coffee shop with
Yeah.
the barista that you see, every morning. And,
Right.
she just got a haircut and you told her she looked great. And
Yeah.
she said, so do you, like all of these little kind of twinkles or whatever you want to call them. Like if you start to pay more attention to them, you get more of them. And a great way to do that is to write it down. If you don't like to write, then you can just keep yourself like this long voice note.
That's
And
right.
it's just to remind yourself of like, really how many fabulous things there are in the world. Even if you're having a shit day, you can completely turn it around most of the time by just going out and deciding to pay attention to this stuff. So I really like changing the story you tell yourself, moving from success to satisfaction as that kind of like, how did I either make someone feel better or help somebody laugh, get them
Yeah.
through their day? Like all of that comes back to you. And that's for me, that's what really is the guide to the good life is, it's in service of others, but really just going that little extra, not much,
Mhm.
it's not a mile, it's just a little something. Um,
It's so
and you always
interesting.
get it
I
back,
I spent
thousandfold.
I spent so many years in corporate America and, you know, getting promoted, getting the next job, doing the hard things, not sleeping at night, doing the first email, like doing everything I was supposed to. Decorated career, great reputation, all of that was great. And then the floor fell out from under me when I got fired from another company. And I was like, oh my God. But that was the shove out of the nest I needed
Yep.
because it forced me to focus on I asked myself three questions. What am I really good at? What do I love to do? And how can I help people the most?
Yep.
And that was the frame that helped me focus and figure out like, this is the work that's important to me, that's going to move the needle, that's going to make a difference. And that's kind of my compass. Like, if it feels good, then the universe kind of conspires to lift it up and make it louder. And here we are on the show.
Yeah. And
So
and I
yeah.
think that's awesome. Like you had a forcing function, right?
Yes.
Like you had to do that. My mom died. I had to kind of come. So
Yeah.
like, what if you read the book or
And
and
you
listened
didn't need
to
all
the
that.
podcast and you didn't have to go through the pain of that forcing function?
Right.
Wouldn't that be nice?
I mean, that would be amazing. And that's, that's
Yeah,
my wish for everyone listening to the show.
me too.
Don't go through the shit that we had to go through. Learn from us. This is the whole point of listening to shows like this, reading these books, listening to mentors and people that have already made these mistakes for you. Don't repeat them. Take
Yeah.
what we learned, take the pain and the struggle and make it yours so you can move faster.
Yes.
Because we're cheering you on.
Yeah.
So
We
I
are.
love that. Okay, so how do you rewrite your ambition narrative to make space for joy now? You kind of touched on it with just
Yeah.
these little glimmers and, seeing goodness. And I'm of the school of thought that if you're feeling really down, the fastest way to get you out of that is to go give and go do something for someone else. That always changes your focus quickly, but you share your thoughts on that.
Well, it's interesting because this whole book ended up coming about because of an interview that I did for an article. And the article was, what is your legacy? It was an article about female exit entrepreneurs. And it was like, well, what? And literally the journalist asked me, what's your legacy? And I was like, I'm sorry, what do you mean? Like my
That's a
legacy?
question I get to later in the show, but
Yeah.
okay, do it now.
Well, it was so strange. Like, what's your legacy? And I was like, do you mean with work? Like, what are you asking me? And she's
Yeah.
like, yeah. And I said, oh, see, I think legacy and work have nothing to do with one another.
Mm.
And she was like, oh, that's very interesting. I was like, do you mainly talk to men? I was curious. I was like, my legacy is making people feel better.
Mm.
And I've done that as a doctor in the sort of traditional laying on of hands, diagnosing, treating, et cetera. I've done that as a friend who might make you laugh, but I've also just done it as a random stranger in the airport, paying somebody a well-intentioned and completely genuine compliment.
Yeah.
Like, what if we all just sort of decided that every day we were going to go out of our way to try to make somebody feel better?
Yeah.
So people go, oh, well, that's, a bunch of mumbo jumbo. I will argue that it is the greatest way to achieve all of your goals. Like,
Yeah.
sure, we're high achieving people. We want to do all of those things. Yes, I want the car. Yes, I want all of those things. I'm a very ambitious human being. I don't apologize for it.
Mm-mm.
What's the most genuine way to actually go out and achieve all of your goals and be satisfied? Try to make somebody feel better every day. It's not
Mm.
hard. You can do it in corporate America. You can
Yeah.
do it as a solo entrepreneur. There is no kind of place where trying to make somebody's day just a tiny bit better goes,
I,
rewarded.
I subscribe to this wholeheartedly, and this is a style of leadership I love. And I always came from the place of, lifting others up looks good on you, always. And it's only the really insecure leaders that are like, if I give Denise all the props, then I don't look good. No, she works for you, you dummy.
Yeah.
She's a direct reflection of you. It looks great on you. And when you are lifting each other up, everybody does it in kind. So, can you talk a little bit about your transition when you were a doctor and you were getting into the business side of things? You know, I imagine that was a pretty tense environment and there was a lot going on. Talk about the leadership experience you had, both, that you drove and that you lived through.
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing is that a lot of times we think we have to kind of have it all figured out before we begin.
Nobody does.
And that's just not true. And even those who might appear as though we have it all figured out, we are literally making it up as we go. So I've never struggled with the I have to understand it all before I start. So that was number one. And it was just it was someone who was like, hey, I had raised a lot of money for the hospital. I was on the board of the hospital, and we had raised a lot of money to do a big construction project, a big capital campaign. And that's where I kind of discovered that I didn't mind asking people for money. But it was because of my love and my passion for the work that it didn't bother
Sure.
me. So somebody noticed this and they were like, hey, I think, you've created a very unique work environment. I think it would really, be great for lots of other people. And the CEO at the hospital where I was working, she was amazing. She literally was like, you should take this show on the road. And I was like, she's like, just shut up and do it. And I was like, fair enough. I'm like, okay, good idea. So I did, and I started, basically just listening and understanding people's problems, and then offering them up, kind of what I would propose as a solution and how I might implement that. And yes, it was business, but it's really the same set of skills that I learned and perfected as a physician that I then kind of apply across really everything, and ultimately
Mhm.
becomes, kind of a leadership, parenting, whatever. It's kind of, I mean, I guess it's a lifestyle, but
But you're
I mean,
diagnosing, like, right? You're
yeah,
collecting data, you're looking at the whole picture. And, if someone is complaining of an ailment, one of the questions should be like, are you stressed? Are you, where are the other reasons that you're feeling this way coming from? And as a doctor, you know how to do that. So
right.
I like that it translates to leadership the same way.
I mean, it completely does, right? So when you're kind of like, learning how to be a doctor, the first thing you do is take a history and a physical, right? So
Right.
the history is like, tell me your story.
Yeah.
Like, I got to be curious to hear your story. I want to ask interesting questions
Right.
that maybe push a little bit deeper to get more information. Then I got to do my physical, which is I'm literally kind of like checking in on who are you? What makes
Mhm.
you tick? What, et cetera. Then I gather my objective data. I get my x-rays, I get my laboratories, like all of those things, my due diligence, if you will. And then I kind of figure out what the list of issues are, and I come up with a plan for each one of them. And it's very systematic, right? Boom, 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 boom. Here's the most important part, though. As new information becomes available, that list has to adjust and the plans have to adjust. Doesn't
100%.
mean you were wrong. It just means you know more now. And I
Mhm.
think that's the kind of mentality and curiosity
Yeah.
and willingness to kind of change your mind
Mhm.
that helps you really become a leader who people want to be around, but also that kind of like engenders capability and confidence in the people that they work with. Because you're like, oh, well, now that you tell me that, that's very interesting. That makes me want to change my mind.
Yeah.
Let's go in a different direction or whatever it is. Those are the kinds of people I want to work for.
Yeah, same. I celebrate that style of leadership. I think when you can come at it from there's a comprehensive situation going on here. It's part people. It's a lot of trust building. It's do we have a bad leader? Do we have a toxic situation that we need to remove? What are all the factors at play? And I love that you approach it this way. I do it similarly. I just like hearing that there's a doctor out there that also agrees this is a good way to do it. This is smart. All right, so sit tight for 30 seconds. We just have a short break and then we're going to come back and I have some more questions for you. So sit tight. If you like the stories you hear every week on this show, guess what? I have hundreds more from my nearly 30 years in the leadership trenches. And I don't just talk about building irresistible culture, I do it. You can bring me into Keynote, moderate your panels, or work directly with your leaders to drive material change. So let's roll up our sleeves, go out to heartbeatforhire.com, let's connect, and let's make some magic happen. Go lead with heart. Okay, welcome back, Dr. Denise. So one of my favorite questions to ask is what inspires you?
I love people. I just find people so entertaining. I love them in all their forms, in all walks of life, anywhere. I'm one of those people. I have yet to meet a stranger. I just find people fascinating. I'm the person who like sits and chats with the, bartender at the airport, and then
Me
also
too.
like gets the guy next to me to like try, the dressed beer with salt on the rim and a lime. Um, I have a natural curiosity that I also find the world a very entertaining place. I'm easily amused. I love to laugh, and I just decide to try to see the humor and the entertainment value in pretty much every experience, which doesn't mean that I don't, have my own grumpy days. However, for the most part, I think the world is a really magical place and I'm glad to be on it. So like that's what makes me happy.
I appreciate that so much, and I feel like I mean this is why we get along like a house on fire, but this is the way that I choose to live. And when you're constantly finding the humor in everything you do, life is pretty freaking entertaining, and so is everyone in it. So yeah, I love that. So normally the question that I ask next is what would you like your legacy to be? And you kind of stole it already, but anything you want to add?
The classic me trying to jump to the head of the line. I know I can't help myself. No, I mean, I really, when I sort of set out kind of in my, kind of 20s, late 20s, early 30s, I was like, what I really want to do is have a couple of kids who want to hang out with me when it's
Yes.
said and done, right? And parenting is the ultimate adventure because you don't know if you've done a good job really until I guess 30, at least 20, maybe 30 years later. And it wasn't easy, and I made stuff up and I asked people for help along the way, and I've got some stuff in the book about how you can kind of be creative with your neighbors and your resources and whatnot to really kind of build a village around you because we all need one. um, and I think that's kind of what I'm really the most happy about is, my one son he's going to be a junior in college, and the other guy just graduated from high school, and we actually hang out together, and their friends are always over here. Like it's a place where everyone feels comfortable. They can kind of ask anything. Like we're a sounding board and a safe space, and like that's always kind of what I wanted. So like when I think to myself, all right, you know what? I may not have done everything right, but I did a few things right, and that's for me, that's really big. But also, it really just comes down to when we want to talk about micro wins, like that micro legacy is like try to just make somebody feel good every day. I may not be able to fix you. That's what I always used to say as a doctor. I may not be able to fix you, but I can make you feel better.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you hit on something that is um I'd love to kind of dig in with you on it is asking for help. And I feel like it's a better conversation than it's been. A lot of people used to assume, and many still do, that asking for help is a sign of weakness. And I don't subscribe to that. Actually, people really like to help. I think people feel important when you come and say, "Hey, I want your advice on this," or "Do you know how I can manage through this?" You are seen as somebody with wisdom. So, this building a village, I think, is so critical. Can you dig a little deeper on that and
Oh,
maybe give some of
absolutely.
your tips?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you. Although there's still, these kind of environments where the vibe is, you must do it all and you must do
Yes.
it all
Know
yourself.
everything.
And
And yeah.
yeah, and that's where I think the kind of like particularly, the oldest daughters amongst us really can get sucked down into that vortex. But really, that is the ultimate sort of place of hubris, right? Like, no
Mm.
one can do it better than me. No one can do it faster than me. I mean, we know all of this to be 100% true. However, you know, what a ridiculous ego kind of thing that is. And that's like literally the recipe for burnout. Like you are well down the path if that's your mentality. But that's a lot of our mentalities, right? And we have this kind of like, fucked up perfectionist, do it all, don't ask, like don't want to bother anyone. That's the one that I still always struggle with. I don't want to bother anyone. Um, and it's garbage. So there's no way. We talked earlier about how you can have it all, but you can't do it all. And so for me, what I realized was there were some things I really enjoyed, and then there were some things I absolutely abhorred. So how could I figure out how to make the ones I
Who can do
absolutely,
the crappy stuff that you hate, but
yeah,
they love?
either can do it or do it with me so that it's somehow like less
Better.
painful. And so I'll just give you the example of my supper club, which I talk about a lot in the book because it ended up being a very foundational thing for my kids' childhood, really. I lived on Cedar Street, and there were three of us who all had kids roughly the same age, and we all worked, but we each had random days off. And one night, just randomly, we were all bemoaning. Like I was like, the thing that I hate the most is coming home and then trying to
What's for
decide what
dinner?
to make for dinner. It's not the actual making of the dinner, it's the fucking decision about what to make
Yes.
that drives
Yes.
me. Like by the end of the day, like the decision fatigue is real. So my girlfriend Jenny was like, "Oh my God, that's the thing I hate the most too." And I was like, "All right, well, what if we just work together on this?" And she's like, "What
Mhm.
do you mean?" I'm like, "Well, you have off on Mondays, I have off on Tuesdays." And then we literally just kind of like brainstormed it. So what we ended up doing is we bought the same Pyrex. We have big sets of Pyrex.
Mhm.
Rule was Jenny cooked on Monday, I cooked on Tuesday, Steph cooked on Wednesday, and you had to have 6 adult servings and you delivered them to the porch. That was it. Like nobody said what we were going to eat or not eat, or there was no requests. It was like the dinner
I
just got
made this, you will eat it.
pretty much. And I mean, Steph and her crock pot recipes, ooh wee. I mean, but she would be like, I don't know why. Every time I make something, it's dry. But we're like, don't care. We're eating it anyway. And that turned in then to like a babysitting co-op. So it was like, well, you guys go out this Friday night. We'll take the kids and you go out. So then suddenly now we've got 3 Friday nights free. I'm only cooking twice a week.
Right.
Like I'm still
Brilliant.
eating all the stuff,
Brilliant.
right?
I
Yeah.
love it.
And so I was funny. I had a book club at a Boston Consulting Group the other day, and we were talking about this. And one of the ladies was like, "Well, yeah, but I don't, I don't know my neighbors." I'm like, "Well, first of all,
Go meet them.
you should go meet them. But if that makes you uncomfortable, and I get like, there's some generational things, like, or maybe they live next, who knows? Um, you could do it here. You have a big fridge here. You could bring your dinners in a Hulking bag and take them home."
Mhm.
She was like, "Oh my God." Yeah, I was like, so you have to like go out of your way and someone has to be creative and
Yes.
brave to
Yeah.
sort of get it started. But then once you do, it starts steamrolling. So like we had this old man in the neighborhood, and then we all got together. We're like, would it be so hard to make 7 servings? No, it would not. So now suddenly he's got a warm dinner every night. Like, and
Mhm.
then you start to just, I don't know, it feeds on itself and it
Yeah.
builds and it grows and it ends up being great because, my kids ended up having, in addition to their dad, they have Papa Tim and Daddy Evan. They have Mama Steph. They got Mama Jenny. Like you have these other adults that your kids can then kind of go to, and also everyone's a
I
little
love
different.
that. I really subscribe to you aren't the only one that raises your children. And when my kids have great relationships with other adults, I love it so much. And I love that, my twins just turned 17 and my son's away, but my daughter wanted to invite the moms over for cocktails before we went out to celebrate. So two of the moms came and I made them a drink and she was like, they brought her presents. Like, and we didn't ask for any of this, but if you love on my child, I'm really happy about it. And it's people for her to confide in, people for her to see how parenting can look. And I just think there's a lot of value in that. So I
And
love
families
that you
do
put all
stuff,
that in the
yeah,
book.
families do stuff differently, right? There's different rules in
Yeah.
different places. Kids need to learn how to have that sort of situational awareness.
Yes.
And
And it
and
changes the narrative of mom, everybody's doing this to they now see, oh, it's different at that house. And she's really spoiled, mom. Or, and I love that they can see that and they
yep,
they compare how they were raised to what's going on in another house. And there's a lot of joy and pride in that. So
yeah, it's
that's really
awesome.
good.
But
Yeah.
that's how you can make it happen,
Yeah.
for you. Like you create your own village. It takes energy.
Yes.
It takes
But it's
time,
worth it. The payoff
but
is
it's totally
big.
worth it. It's
The
totally worth it. And
payoff
you
is
can do that
big.
at work too, right? Like, doesn't mean you have to be like, best buddies with people, but like you can create these villages kind of
Yes.
wherever you are.
Mhm.
And I think when you do that, um, you just have a lot more compassion for your fellow, person. And I think you give yourself more grace. Other people give you more grace. We all start
Yeah.
to act like we're whole people, which kind of brings us full circle back to this whole work-life balance garbage.
Yeah.
We don't have work and life. We have life.
It's
That's all
life.
we have.
It's life. It's life. Okay, so what's next for Doc?
I'm doing a lot of fun things. Really enjoying the book and talking to folks about it. I've got a cool new job doing working for an investment fund. Figuring out what companies to invest in and how to do it. And I love growing things. I love kind of partnering people together. And yeah, the younger guys off to college here in a couple. Only 6 weeks time,
Oh,
and
right
it'll be
behind you.
Oh my God, it'll be a whole new era. So yeah,
Amazing.
it's all fun,
I love it. I love it. And how can people find you?
Let's see. I have a website. The S is important. It's Denise S. Brown,
There's a
MD.
few Denise Browns, so we want to make
Yeah,
sure we
God
get the
forbid.
S
Yeah.
right.
She's a very nice person, I'm sure. And or on LinkedIn, which I go back and forth around with my LinkedIn stuff. Sometimes I'm really into it, and sometimes I can't be bothered. Currently I'm in a like a little of a summer vacation kind of.
Uh-huh.
I've posted my things, I've scheduled them, and I'm just like, it's
Let it
summertime.
go.
And then my personal email my personal Instagram is mildly unhinged. It's DVSBEE. That's Denise Veronica Saran Brown, like the bumblebee, DVSBEE. And that's just a literally kind of a no holds barred look at my life and
I
what I'm
love
up
it. I love it. Well,
to.
this has been an absolute joy. Thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom and joy with us. And guys, sit tight. I've got an audience question coming right up. So hang on. Denise, thank you so much for being such a
Thank
great guest.
you.
All right, hang on, guys. This week's audience question ties so perfectly to this episode. It's when was the last time you felt truly satisfied, not just successful? And coming from my perspective of a person who was very successful in my career, I got lots of accolades, lots of awards, lots of recognition. I don't know that any of the work that I was doing was truly feeding my soul. The part that really connected for me was working with other people, lifting others up, helping them shine, leading teams. Obviously, making money felt pretty good, but it really wasn't super aligned to my purpose. Now, I'm not suggesting that all of you need to quit your corporate jobs and go find the things that are absolutely perfect for your soul. That's not realistic. However, I also am a big believer in the side hustle, and there are lots of ways to scratch that itch that can give you that satisfaction while your bills are getting paid. So keep the money coming in while you figure out what that move might be. Maybe it's a book, maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's being on podcasts, maybe it's writing. There's a lot of things that you can do as a professional that are outside of your day job. So I really would push you to re-examine what success means. And like Dr. Denise just said, think about what are those satisfying moments? What are those things that make you smile and feel good and incorporate more of that into your life? And if you are so busy that you don't have a hobby or you don't have something else to do with your time, I'm going to challenge you to figure out what your hobby should be. And maybe that hobby is crocheting. Maybe it's taking an improv class. Maybe it's a writing workshop. Maybe it's painting. Maybe it's just doing more exercise or picking up a new way to cook. There's a lot of ways to incorporate some joy into your life, but our life is short. And as someone who I died, which is a story for another day, back in 2005. I'm here. It's better on this side of the dirt, at least for this life. Life is short. It's very fleeting. So make sure that you're infusing joy wherever possible. Surround yourself with people that lift you up. Get a beautiful personal board of advisors who are not afraid to kick your ass because those people are going to remind you who you are. And who you are is a gift to all of us. So let it shine. Get out there, lead with heart, and thanks for listening. Have a great day. Thanks for listening to this episode of Heartbeat for Hire. I hope you enjoyed what you heard. If you did, please subscribe to my YouTube channel or consider leaving a 5-star review and a great rating at Spotify or Apple. Thank you so much for your support. Have a great day.